if there's a big firefight. It's going to suck.
Yeah, and those lines, those phase lines can get confused real quickly, as we know.
But flanking the enemy is awesome, and you should do it every opportunity you get in all aspects of life. Continuing a little bit more about the envelopment. The envelopment presumes a frontal fixation of the enemy. So you still have to lay down some sort of fire to make them distracted. The enemy is most certainly fixed if his entire front is attacked. However, such an attack demands strong forces, which must be absent from the enveloping wing. Often, therefore, must the attacker be content with limited objective or feint attacks. So you're trying to, if you use every troop that you have to do the frontal assault, well, then you've got no one left to flank. So another cool thing, like in the teams, you'd have the little assault force that was going to move. And so when I first was like going through SQT, well, we just take all the big machine gunners and put them in the base element. Like, you guys are going to lay down fire, and then all the other guys with the M4s, we would be the assault team. Well, what happens when the assault team gets compromised?
They're compromised.
They're compromised, and now they can't advance. So now they lay down and start laying down fire. Well, now the base force just became the assault force.
Right.
And guess what they're holding?
Yeah,
a bunch of heavy weapons. Yeah. They're not as mobile. And even worse, the now base force, all they have is M16s, and they're going ping, ping, ping.
Right.
That's not going to keep anyone's head down compared to an M60.
Right.
So I learned that very early. What you don't. And it was great for me because that was another thing that initially taught me, hey, you got your standard operating procedures. You got 2 squads. You got 2 squads in a platoon. Cool. One is base, one is assault. Don't pull the heavy weapons into the base force because you might need them.
Well, I think it's if the enemy in there he's saying, well, if the enemy is fixed, right? You have it presumes the frontal assault, like that's the main effort. But if that shifts, if they become wise to the flanking maneuver and they begin to put more forces there, then the whole thing just dynamically shifted around. And so by loading up your base with your automatic weapons, now you're totally off balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are the little things that I learned along the way that I was like, oh, that makes sense.
So there's a good reason to have an AW or 2 in each squad.
Yes.
And, yeah.
AW2. That's the best position. Check. Here's talking about execution of attacks. Basis of the cooperation of arms. So what are we talking about here? The objective of combined arms in an attack is to bring the infantry in its decisive action against the enemy with sufficient firepower and shock action so that it is possible to drive through deeply and break down the final hostile resistance. This goal is first reached when the hostile artillery is taken or is forced to retire. All arms cooperating in an attack must recognize their mutual capabilities and consider their respective limitations. They require continuous close communications with one another. The cooperation between the attacking infantry and the supporting artillery governs the course of the attack. Full cooperation must exist in time and space throughout the attack. This is a little something that we call cover and move.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how much they talk about communication. Continuous close communication with one another.
And the cooperation.
Full cooperation. In the Marine Corps, when Dave Burke and I covered the tactics manual, they call cover and move cooperation. That's what they call it. And so I wonder where they got that from.
Yeah. Well, cooperation, working together, but also break the word in 2 pieces. It's cooperation, right? So you have 2 different elements that may even have different chains of command, right? You got an artillery unit, you have an infantry unit. And, we saw this in Ramadi too. Here we are, a Naval Special Forces unit with one set of communication method, working with Army and Marines who use different types of communication, who own the battle space. We were guests in their battle space, and we had to cooperate, right? We had to cooperate. That meant communication, working together to ensure, that synchrony of effort. And without that, that's when, hey, we're going to be operating this here. Where are you going to be? Well, I don't need to tell you. Like that was kind of like this old, some people talk like that. That's not what we did. And that's part of why we had success there, is because we cooperated with the Army and the Marines.
No doubt about it.
Continuously.
We covered and moved with them. 100%. It is the duty of both infantry and artillery to secure their cooperation through mutual, established, permanent, and effective communication. What does that mean? That means you better have a relationship with them.
Dude, I mean, it's just... Sorry, I didn't know you were about to read what I just said.
No, it's good. That's once again proving that actually what we're talking about is timeless, and it should be obvious to people on the battlefield. It should be obvious to people in the business world. It should be obvious to people that are trying to work together inside of a family. It should be obvious. But once again, the reason we have a business is because it's not as obvious. It's not as easy to execute this stuff as it is to read it.
Yep, exactly.
And it takes practice and it takes technique, and the best way to get good at it is to do it. But you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to learn from them. You better learn from them. So I think that's actually a good place to wrap up this this document. This crazy document, Gruppenführung, which is just tons of those lessons in there. And either lessons learned, most of them are just lessons reinforced. That's what most of them are. Simplicity of conduct will most surely obtain the objective. Friction and mistakes are an everyday occurrence. This is for those of you out there with the, what do they call it? A zero defect mentality? Wrong.
Exactly.
People are going to make mistakes. There's going to be friction. You're not going to get to do anything easy. If you're doing something easy, guess what? You shouldn't move on and find something more challenging. Mutual trust is the surest form of discipline. That right there. When you think of discipline as something you're going to impose on your troops, you're wrong. You're wrong. Discipline is formulated through trust. Strictly maintained discipline is the benefit to all. And then this one of my favorites from this is the first demand of war is decisive action. Decisive action. That is what we need. That's what we all need. The words and the thoughts and the plans and the ideas, they all mean nothing without action. And I'm definitely not saying that you don't need to think or you don't need to plan or you don't need to have ideas, but I am saying that none of those things matter unless you take action. So I think that's all we've got for tonight. And if you want to take some action in your life, in your world, here's some things that you can do. Train jiu-jitsu. That's a good one. You're training right now, Andrew?
I am.
Check. Back on the mats of justice.
It's very humbling. The last muster, which is what got me back onto the mats.
Oh, because you realized you need to get your game back.
Oh, it was just humbling. That's just the only way I can describe it.
See, you're lucky you had that jiu-jitsu. You had jiu-jitsu before a lot of people had jiu-jitsu because you were training in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
and
late 90s.
So you kind of rested on those laurels a bit, right? Right?
Well, and everybody else got really good and I got rusty.
Yeah.
I just haven't been training. Not in jiu-jitsu anyway.
Yeah. So back on the mats. Hey, if you're training jiu-jitsu, go to originmain.com. You can get American-made everything. Gis, the best gis. You can support this podcast and you can support America. We got T-shirts, hoodies, gis. Did I say gis? Yes, I did. And jeans, by the way. Now we got jeans. That's right. American-made jeans. Cotton from America. Woven in America. Sewn in America. By Americans. It's awesome. And actually available now for the first time for pre-order, Origin boots.
Oh.
Origin boots. So same thing. You know, we We invested in the machinery. We found the old timers that did that for a living before factories started going overseas. So check out the Origin boots, supplements, Joint Warfare, krill oil, Discipline Go, and also Discipline Go ready to drink. Booyah. I see you've been sucking on that thing over there. You drank a lot of those during your muster.
You know,
I was like, dang.
Well, I had some at night, and you're like, you're drinking that right now. I'm like, yeah, man, it tastes great. I like it. I'm a fan of the Tropic Thunder.
Oh, yeah. So we got Tropic Thunder. We got Lemon Lime, which is called Citrus Psycho. I'm running low on that right now. That's why I didn't bring them.
Oh, I thought when you brought it in here, you just remembered that my preference.
No, you got lucky.
I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Jocko paying attention to the guys that work for him. Like,
don't care. Don't care. All the thing I said about caring was not true. that's what I have left. I didn't want to sacrifice any of my lemon lime.
Roger that.
No, dude, I remembered. Okay. I was taking care of you. So yeah, you can get those cans. Ultimately, you're going to be able to get those everywhere in the world. That's what I'm talking about because it's good for you. The ingredients. Have you seen the ingredients? Filtered carbonated water, natural flavor, citric acid, monk fruit extract. That's the ingredients. Look at the ingredients on any other can of what crap is in there.
No, it's so bad for you.
So it's got a bunch of other things, B12 and magnesium and sodium and potassium, and there's caffeine in it. So anyways, check it out. You'll dig it, and it will get you. It'll get you kind of fired up.
It'll get you going.
Yeah, exactly. It'll get you going. Warrior Kid Mulk, strawberry, chocolate, whatever, a bunch of different flavors. Jocko White Tea, check that out. We have our own store, jockostore.com. Rash guards, T-shirts, truckers' hats, beanies, hoodies. Everything on there is legit. If you want to support the podcast, it's awesome. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to this podcast, the Warrior Kid Podcast. I got a couple that are approaching readiness, so we'll be there. I usually roll those out 3 at a time. So I got 1 in the bank, working on a couple more. YouTube, if you want to see Echo Charles's legit videos, then you can go there and you can, in the comments, tell Echo that he's jacked. He's not here right now to defend himself, but boy, does he love it when people tell him he's jacked. He acts all humble, but he loves every second of it. Psychological Warfare, you can get that on iTunes, Google Play. If you want an alarm clock, you want the Jocko alarm clock? Jocko, you should make an alarm clock. It's there.
Oh, I have it. This is what I use.
It's called Psychological Warfare. If you want that, go to any MP3 platform. You can get it. Flipsidecanvas.com. Dakota, my brother, he's making cool things to hang on your wall. Got a bunch of books. The next book to come out is called Leadership Strategy and Tactics Field Manual. Breaking down this stuff at a tactical level pragmatically so you can execute it. Also, Way the Warrior 3 Kid just came out a little while ago. It's called Where There's a Will. Talked about will today. Shouldn't children know about the power of their will?
Absolutely.
Yes, they should. Get them the book that's literally called Where There's a Will, and you know the rest of it. The other Way the Warrior Kid books are also available. Way the Warrior Kid and Mark's Mission. Mikey and the Dragons. Best kids book ever. You're one of the first people I read it to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before it was even in print.
Well, it wasn't even in print. It was like I just scratched it out.
It's so good.
Yeah, it was awesome. When I read it to you and you were like, I could see the look in your face. You're like, how did this knuckle drag you write that? Same exact.
So good. That's a gift I give to like friends of mine to give to like kids. Like it's a bedtime story. It's so good. And there's something in there for all of us adults too.
There is. There is indeed. And then there's Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. How to get after it manual. The audio version of that is on, it's MP3. It's not audible. Because, same thing, I wanted people to be able to break it down and put on their alarms. So that's what I did. iTunes, whatever, MP3. Extreme Ownership with my brother Leif Babin. Dichotomy Leadership with my brother Leif Babin. Everything that we're talking about in modern language, examples from the battlefield and the business world, very straightforward principles. One of the best, I think it's the best-selling business book since it came out, Extreme Ownership. Yeah. Dichotomy Leadership, people say, is better, interestingly enough. Mm-hmm. So get those two. EF Online, we made online training for leadership because you can't just go to one event or read one book and think that you're all good to go. you need to continually train. And that's what we made EF Online for, efonline.com. It is leadership training, interactive